All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we're going all the way to Mars.
The Mars.
We're talking about Elon Musk, SpaceX, and their plan to build a permanent human settlement on Mars.
Big plans.
Big plans indeed. And we'll see if this sci-fi dream is actually possible. We're going to look at the recent progress SpaceX has made and the challenges ahead. Because get this, they're aiming to launch a crewed mission in the next decade, not just a flyby. They're going to start building a self-sustaining city.
Well, it's interesting because this idea that Musk has actually aligns with something we're seeing more and more of in the scientific community.
Oh, yeah.
That we need to establish a presence beyond Earth if we want humanity to survive long term.
Yeah, it's not just about exploring anymore.
Yeah.
It's about backing up the hard drive.
Exactly.
So let's talk about the Starship program.
Okay.
SpaceX is developing this fully reusable spacecraft. It's meant specifically for these Mars missions. And you hear this word reusability all the time. Why is that so important?
Well, for decades, the biggest hurdle for space exploration has been cost. It's been so expensive.
Yeah.
Imagine if every time we wanted to fly a 747, we had to build a new one.
Oh, wow.
That's basically what we've been doing with rockets. So Starship is designed to be fully reusable,
Okay.
which would cut the cost per launch drastically.
Right.
And make these Mars trips possible.
Make it actually feasible to keep going back and forth.
Exactly.
The sources mentioned some promising results from recent Starship test flights. We don't have specifics, but what can we assume based on what kind of tests they're doing?
Well, even though the details are kind of scarce, it seems like they're really focusing on the landing.
Right.
Which makes sense. If you want to have a fully reusable system, it can't just reach orbit.
Right.
It has to land back on Earth intact and be ready to go again. So if they're consistently nailing these landings, that's a major step.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's switch gears and talk about Musk's vision
Okay.
for this Martian city. He talks about habitats and greenhouses for growing food and systems for generating oxygen and water. It sounds like utopia.
Right.
How realistic is it?
It's interesting because he's not just talking about surviving. He wants to create like a thriving civilization.
Right.
And that's where the challenge comes in.
Yeah.
The technology for these closed loop life support systems for growing food in Martian soil, it's really still in the early stages.
Yeah, and let's not forget about where we're going, Mars. It's freezing.
Right.
The atmosphere is super thin, doesn't offer much protection.
Right.
And then there's the radiation.
Exactly. And it's not just any radiation. We're talking galactic cosmic rays, highly energetic particles that can damage your DNA and, potentially cause cancer.
Yeah.
So that's why SpaceX's idea of building the habitats underground becomes crucial, because the Martian soil would act as a shield and absorb a lot of this radiation.
Okay, so the sources also mentioned that they want to use Martian resources to make fuel.
Yeah.
Can you explain that to us?
Sure. So the idea is to use Martian water ice, which we know exists on the surface and below the surface. And they'd split the water into hydrogen and oxygen through a process called electrolysis.
Okay.
And you can use both of those as propellant for Starship, so you don't have to bring fuel from Earth.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty amazing.
All right, well, I have a Musk quote here. He says, "The window of opportunity is now. We have the technology and we're making rapid progress. It's not a question of if, but when."
He's very confident.
He is very confident.
But is that timeline actually feasible?
Well, Musk has a history of setting these ambitious goals and then actually achieving them. I mean, he revolutionized the electric car industry with Tesla. He's proven that reusable rockets can work with Falcon 9.
Yeah.
But a self-sustaining city on Mars within a decade?
Right.
That is a monumental task. I mean, the technologies are there.
Yeah.
But scaling them up to support a whole colony on another planet
Yeah.
is something we've never seen before.
So to wrap things up, SpaceX is actively working towards this goal.
Of a Mars colony within the next decade. They're facing huge challenges, but coming up with some very innovative solutions. And driving all of this is Musk's vision and this growing awareness that humanity needs a backup plan.
It kind of makes you think, if establishing a self-sustaining presence on another planet is essential for our future, what should our role be?
Yeah.
What should individuals and governments be doing to support this, or maybe even challenge it?
Yeah.
Should we be putting more resources into this?
Right.
Are there more pressing matters here on Earth? It's
Yeah,
complicated. There's no easy answers, but it's definitely something to think about as we watch this all unfold.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive, and we'll see you next time. Today we're tackling a question I'm pretty sure you've never thought to ask before. How do you set up a government on Mars?
Wow.
We're diving deep into a recent ATN News video. It's all about Elon Musk's ideas for politics on Mars.
Hmm.
And get this, he doesn't want Mars just copying Earth.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. It's a departure from how we normally think about space exploration, you know?
Yeah.
Usually we're thinking about the how of getting to Mars, the rockets, the technology.
Right.
But Musk is already thinking about the long game, like what kind of society are we going to build when we get there?
Yeah, and he's said that he wants Martians to decide their own government.
Right.
But the video really got me thinking when it mentioned his preference for direct democracy.
Mm-hmm.
So is that even going to be possible on an entire planet?
Well, it's definitely a bold idea. On Earth, direct democracy usually works best in smaller, more local settings. Like, imagine a small town where everyone can gather at a town hall and vote on local issues. Scaling that up to a planetary level, even with all the technology we can imagine in the future, it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, I can see how that would get messy.
Yep.
Coordinating votes across vast distances with different communities.
Sure.
And not to mention the potential for mob rule, where the majority might not always make the best decisions or be inclusive.
Yeah.
So are there any safeguards against that?
That's a great question. And it's something that the Martian environment might require some modifications to the classic direct democracy model. You know, they could use advanced technology like blockchain-based voting systems to make sure that everyone's vote is secure and transparent. Or they could develop sophisticated AI algorithms to analyze potential policy choices and present that to the voters before they actually cast their ballots.
So basically using tech to ensure everyone is heard, but also providing the information needed to make an informed decision.
Exactly.
It's like taking the best parts of direct democracy and giving it a futuristic upgrade for Mars. But the video also mentioned representative democracy. Could that work better on Mars?
That's another possibility to think about, especially as the colony grows and becomes more diverse. You know, electing representatives could really streamline decision-making, and you could have more specialized expertise in governing. The big challenge then is making sure that those representatives actually reflect the will of the people that they're serving.
And that's a challenge we have here on Earth, too.
Definitely.
It makes me wonder if Martian representation might need to take into account not just location, but also factors like skills or access to resources, or even the challenges specific to different Martian settlements.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't want folks living in a lava tube having all of this say on how water is allocated.
Absolutely. And that's where things get really interesting. The need for fair and effective representation in a Martian colony might lead to totally new types of political organization. You know, we could see systems where representation is based on your expertise or resource management needs or even environmental factors. It's a chance to completely reimagine how we think about political power and decision making.
That's like a blank slate for political philosophy.
Yeah.
No historical baggage, no entrenched ideologies,
Yeah.
just problem solving for a new environment.
That's exciting.
It is. And it shows how important it is to think beyond how we do things on Earth when it comes to politics. On Mars, the most basic needs, like being able to breathe, having water, protecting yourself from radiation, those immediately become political issues. The environment itself shapes the political landscape in a way we haven't seen before.
Yeah, so like deciding where to build a settlement or how to manage energy suddenly becomes a deeply political act with potential consequences for everyone.
Exactly.
It's hard to understand that level of interconnectedness from our viewpoint here on Earth. Right. And that brings us back to Musk's timeline. You know, he wants to send an unmanned rocket to Mars within 2 years.
Wow.
And then a manned mission in 2029. That's just around the corner.
Right.
And it really emphasizes the importance of having these conversations now.
And we can't forget the budget. A cool 1,000 trillion US dollars.
Oh, yeah.
That's according to the video.
Yeah.
It's more than the entire GDP of Earth.
It is. It's a massive figure.
Right.
And it shows just how much effort and resources will be needed to make this vision a reality.
Right.
But it also shows the potential benefits. If we can create a self-sustaining colony on Mars, it would be one of the greatest achievements in human history. It would show our ingenuity, our resilience, and our ability to collaborate.
It's clear we need some serious innovation, not just for rockets, but for sustainable living solutions on Mars.
Yeah.
Like governance, resource management, conflict resolution. These are all critical pieces.
It's like putting together a giant interplanetary puzzle, and each piece represents a different aspect of this whole ambitious endeavor. As we explore this topic further, it becomes clear that Martian governance isn't just a technical challenge, it's a philosophical one.
So if you were a Martian settler, what kind of government would you want? What challenges might Martian governance face compared to Earth?
Yeah.
What would it take to create a system that's not only functional, but also fair